This is CBS Sports.com's College Football 360. We come your way each and every day, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm Kevin Cork. It's our chance to play a little hot or not with Bruce Feldman, our college football insider. This is when I toss up a question or comment or a player or a team, and I ask Bruce, all right, so are they hot or not? Bruce, let's begin by talking about the aforementioned Stephen Morris, the quarterback for the University of Miami. Listen, a lot of people feel like coming off that 500-yard passing performance over the weekend that he is going to light up the Notre Dame defensive secondary. So what do you figure? Are those thoughts hot or not?
I think they're not. I mean, he's definitely one of the hottest quarterbacks in the country, but I think this Notre Dame defense is better than what he has seen by a long stretch so far. Now, granted, if you look at the passing games that Notre Dame has faced, this is going to be kind of interesting here because the secondary is the biggest question mark Notre Dame has. People can talk about, well, who's the starting quarterback and this and that. The secondary is the issue for them, ultimately. And I think that's the thing that'll keep them from being a truly elite team this year. But you look, they played Navy. Well, Navy actually had over 150 yards passing early in the second half, and Navy doesn't throw the ball at all. Purdue has a capable offense, but Michigan State, real quarterback issues at this point in the passing game, and obviously Denard Robinson really has struggled mightily as a passer. Miami's receivers are pretty good. I think Dorsett has really emerged as one of the better young receivers in college football, and Morris's arm is strong. The question is going to be, can that Miami offensive line, which is big and pretty athletic, but still pretty young, can that Miami offensive line hold up against a very, very talented Notre Dame front seven? And Stephon Tuitt is playing like a guy who's making a run at being an All-American defensive lineman. You know, we know Manti Te'o is going to get pressure. We know Prince Shembo has emerged as a big play guy for Notre Dame. That's going to be the challenge for Miami this week is can they handle that pressure? If they can, you know what? Miami's got some receivers that are going to test the Notre Dame secondary that we don't know much about. We know they're young, and we know they're playing some guys who are pushed into roles probably sooner than they should be just because of injury and attrition. But Notre Dame did have a week off to get ready and to get maybe more locked in. I think Notre Dame's defense will cool Morris down. But it'll be fun to see how this thing plays out.
Spot-on analysis, especially vis-a-vis the offensive line. Listen, if Miami's O-line can give Morris a little time, he might chew him up just a bit. But I think Notre Dame, this is a trap. I think they absolutely crushed the Canes, but we'll all find out together. How about this, hot or not, for Bruce Feldman here on College Football 360? A lot of people, Bruce, are talking about Geno Smith, rightly so. But I watched their game this weekend very carefully, and their wide receivers were unbelievable. So here's a question, hot or not. Some people feel like their wideouts ought to be Heisman candidates as well, that is. Hot or not?
Not. I can't. I mean, look, both guys are terrific receivers. I think people knew more about Tavon Austin because he was kind of an X-factor guy. He's a good return guy. He could do some of the quick game stuff where he could get the ball out in space. Stedman Bailey was more the down-the-field guy. And they put on a phenomenal show this week. Also, I think, one of the key things to how that offense has really taken off, and maybe the most underrated aspect, has been the emergence of J.D. Woods, a senior receiver, because now you have the third guy in there, and it just, stresses defenses that much more. The problem here for these guys is this week they face arguably the best secondary in the country in Texas, and Manny Diaz knows exactly what he's doing at getting pressure from different places. That's going to challenge Geno Smith, and that's going to challenge these receivers, and we'll see what they do. But as it comes to Heisman candidates, it's hard enough for a school, especially a school that hasn't had a run of Heisman candidates, to have one candidate, but to have multiple. It usually doesn't work that way for almost any other school. As far as I think West Virginia has come as a brand, I don't think it's ready to have two guys in New York, much less three, for the Heisman ceremony.
I agree with you. We continue our look at hot or not here on College Football 360. We come your way each and every day, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm Kevin Cork, thrilled to have Bruce Feldman on the program as we play hot or not. Bruce, here's a question. Derek Dooley's future at Tennessee, hot or not?
Not. You know what? After losing to Florida a week ago, that game, I thought, or 2 weeks ago, that game I thought, you get blown out in the second half. Florida's a young team with a young quarterback. you have a lot of three-year starters around, an experienced quarterback, some impressive talent, and you get blown out in the second half. I think a lot of Tennessee people had to look at it and go, if we can't beat Florida now, when are we ever going to beat them? Then they struggled for a while with Akron before they really put them away. I thought they actually played pretty well. Obviously, the defense didn't, but I thought they, the way they battled back late in the first half to take, to put the game and put Georgia on its heels, I thought was a positive. Only losing by 7 at Georgia, I don't think there's any shame in that. The problem is this still comes back to Derek Dooley cannot lead this team to any wins against anybody really of consequence. I mean, it's staggering. He's basically 0 for 20 against ranked teams in his career dating back to Louisiana Tech. You would think somewhere along the way he would be able to upset somebody. Well, now you look at what he's got left in the rest of October. They go to Mississippi State, who's ranked 20th. Now, I don't think Mississippi State, of all the undefeated teams out there, they're towards the bottom in terms of, worth, I think. They haven't really beaten anybody that's going to get you too excited. I think we're still finding out about Mississippi State. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Tennessee went in there and won. In fact, I think they have a good chance to do that. But I think that would say as much about Mississippi State as it would about Tennessee at this point. I think I think it comes down to how competitive are they going to be the following week when Alabama comes in there and when they go to South Carolina. Those are really good teams. I think the jury's really out on Mississippi State, and I think ultimately, Derek Dooley has to do something to show his bosses that he's the right guy to get another year. Because after the month of October, the schedule drops off so much. Troy at home, Missouri at home, at Vandy, who's been bad. Then they have Kentucky come in. They should win those last 4 games. The challenge, ultimately, they win those 4 games, and even if they knock off Mississippi State, they are probably the least impressive 8-4 team that Tennessee could have ever had. And I think that would leave people with a just. I don't feel like they would think, what, we feel really good about the direction of this program, and I just think ultimately, it just is not working out.
And the ghosts of Majors and Fulmer and others just continue to resonate with the fans. And let's face it, they expect that program to be in contention for the national championship at least every few years, and they certainly have not been at that level with Derek Dooley. I want to get your reaction very quickly, Bruce, to what Gary Danielson had to say about the Derek Dooley situation at Tennessee. Take a listen.
Yeah, it's a brutal schedule, and the game that I think he needs to really have his team play well in is Mississippi State.
Yeah.
I think most of the kind of longtime followers of the SEC and the smart people at Tennessee understand that Derek has inherited a bad program and he's improved the program. I don't think there's any shame in losing to these great football teams, especially in the way they played today. But going to Mississippi State and getting spanked there or losing a game you shouldn't lose coming up in the future, that could be the problem. I think he's got him on the right track. I think Dave Hart, longtime athletic director in college sports, he was at East Carolina, he was at Florida State, he was at Alabama. I think he gets it, and I think he understands that to change jockeys again might be a tough job for Tennessee. Who knows? These are always these decisions get made by a lot of people, but Derek's a pretty good football coach.
You're just listening there to Gary Danielson talk about the hot seat in Tennessee as Derek Dooley tries to convince, as Bruce Feldman pointed out aptly, not just his boss but also convince the entire community that the program is moving in the right direction. But the question remains, Bruce, will he get enough time to complete his vision? Your thoughts, if you were, say, to put a percentage on the chance that Derek Dooley is back on the sidelines for the Volunteers next year, what would that percentage be?
I'd say it's 25%. I think that Gary made some good points. No question, he inherited a bad situation. If it wasn't a bad situation, I don't think they take a guy with a sub 500 record at Louisiana Tech, though, to be their head coach. It's Tennessee. It's not northern. It's not northern Nebraska or some directional kind of school.
Sure.
It's Tennessee, and I think that that's ultimately the question. And even when Gary says I think he's a pretty good coach, it's a pretty good coach. In the SEC, it's relatively speaking, you're going to get beat a lot, and I think that you have to wonder, is Derek Dooley capable of leading Tennessee to be not just a borderline top 25 team, but a top 10 team. I mean,
right.
As much as this is only year 3 and he inherited, a rough situation, he does have a lot of guys with a lot of experience, especially on that offense. I mean, that is an experienced offensive line. The running game is still shaky, and I think you still have to be better in that. The defense, they've had a lot of coaching turnover under him. He's hit the reset button on his staff a lot, and I think that's also been an issue, and I think as they go forward, they're going to be moving into new facilities. You wonder if they're holding back on that until ultimately, maybe the new guy comes in and they get to do things how they want to do or put the finishing touches, as opposed to maybe, this is Derek Dooley's fingerprints were all over this. And that's why I just don't think, short of them putting a real scare into Alabama or going to South Carolina and winning, I don't think Derek Dooley is going to be there, because I don't think Mississippi State is going to be a big enough win, even if they get it, ultimately, because I don't think people are going to look at Mississippi State and go, yeah, you beat a top 15 team. They could be hanging around the top 25, but I just don't think Mississippi State is, anyone outside of right now really looks at Mississippi State as an elite program. And I think to prove it at Tennessee, you got to beat Georgia, you got to find a way to beat Alabama or South Carolina or Florida. And when you haven't beaten those schools, especially the way they lost to Florida, I just think that there's just too much shoulder shrugging at this point.
Bruce Feldman joining us here on College Football 360. He's with us each and every week. We come your way Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Bruce, thank you very much. And a reminder, everybody, we want you to stay connected with us here on the program. We want you to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter, facebook.com/Eye on College Football. And on Twitter, it's Eye on CFB.